Hello everyone and welcome to Voice of the Box. Okay, fantasy football fans, I think I might have an interview that you're interested in. You ever wonder who's keeping the stats that you need to run your leagues? I got the guy. Coming up next on Voice of the Box. Hello everyone and welcome to Voice of the Box. Fantasy football players, you might want to listen to this one. I've got Dave Kranz with me, joining me today. And Dave, instead of me explaining your role, would you mind just first off telling me the role that you operate here as part of the game day operations?
Sure. I'm the head of the statistics crew for the 49ers, so we have an 8-person staff and we report all the statistics to both the league and the teams.
Again, fantasy football players. Doesn't that sound like you might want to know this guy? Obviously, I'm making light of it. It's a very integral part of this whole of football in itself. Everything is so number oriented. I must ask just on the front end, how did you get this start? This is a very specialized role. How did you get this job?
Yeah. Typically, you have to know somebody.
Right.
I knew my father. He was a stat guy for the Oakland Raiders and then for the 49ers here. And so when I was in college at Berkeley, every so often they need somebody to sub, and my father would say, I've got a kid who can do that. So I started filling in. Eventually, about 21 years ago, took a job, every game job, doing the stats, and then became the head guy in about 87.
No, in 87 you became
97.
Oh, 97. You became the head guy. You truly are the quarterback of this 8-person team. Excuse me. How long have you been doing it though?
Well, with the 49ers, I think this is my 21st season. I also did stats for a number of other teams in other leagues. We had my first real experience was with the USFL, the Oakland Invaders, back in the mid-1980s. So did the Invaders. We did the when there was a Canadian Football League team in Sacramento. We did that World League team in Sacramento.
Is that the Surge? I'm going off memory.
The Sacramento Surge of the Arena Football League.
Or the
Sacramento Surge of the World League of American Football. The Sacramento Gold Miners of the Canadian Football League. We had one glorious year of arena football in Sacramento with the Sacramento Attack, and then with the one season of the San Francisco Demons in the XFL.
You're certainly not a Johnny-come-lately when it comes to operating a stat crew. If you don't mind, just briefly, there's 8 people on your crew. Just essentially, what are their roles? Just kind of going one by one as fast as you can without giving a kind of a description of that.
I'm the offensive caller, so that means I'm the person who determines down and distance on any given play.
Okay.
If the play starts at the 20-yard line and it's a run off right tackle, then I determine where the play ends, if it's the 23 or 24 or whatever, and so that's my call. We have a defensive spotter who does the tackles and assists and that sort of thing, and then most of the rest of the people are recording the stats in one way or another. The stats are now done on a computer system that goes directly into the NFL database through the internet, so people at home can actually follow the stats kind of on a play-by-play basis online if they so choose. So we have 2 people working as data entry people, one who's doing the live play-by-play, and the other person doing what we call an audit computer, who goes back and rectifies any errors so that the play-by-play person can keep up with the game. And then we have a couple people doing alternate play-by-plays, either pencil and paper or on a computer in case
backup.
To help the computers out, or in case the computers fail, we have a backup. We have one person who's paying attention to lineups and subs, so we can track whoever plays in the game. And then the final person does the old-fashioned pencil and paper stats by hand, and we compare that against the computer so that if there are any errors in the computer system, we can catch those, we hope, during the game so that the stats are as accurate as we can make them.
A gut reaction answer to this question. Biggest challenge you face as part of your role?
Well, the role is pretty straightforward. Where we get into excitement is when there's an unusual play, a fumble or an interception. Those tend to be a little more intensive. Some arcane penalties come along every so often where the ball is marked off at a different place than we would be used to. So that's typically the the times when it gets the most interesting is when we have those unusual plays.
And the flip side of that, oh, I'm sorry, you were
well, I was going to say, you may be aware of those old Football Follies tapes, you know, those crazy plays. Those are like a stat crew nightmare tape, you know, nightmare reel. All these plays have to be accounted for, all that stuff when the ball is bouncing all over the place. Somehow that has to be accounted for in the stats. And so
you're the guy.
We watch those plays and go, oh man, how did they handle that one?
Now on the flip side of that, there's obviously a reward. What's your reward that you get out of this? We like to, stay a little positive instead of the challenge. What's your biggest reward you get out of your job?
Sure. Well, it's always interesting to be here. This is kind of the center of the sports world in San Francisco when it's going on. We've been here through the championship years and some of the leaner years, but there's always been a lot of interest in it. It's I enjoy the people that we work with. We try to remember that it's work, but it's a game as well, and we try to enjoy ourselves while we're doing the job. Also, I don't mean to make you answer questions so quickly, because this is, and trust me folks, I'm on headset with this crew during the game. I know how intense it can get during game day, and it's not an easy job. They make it look easy. What kind of mandates, or obviously the NFL has a rule book. Do you and your crew, or anyone on your crew, do you get sent to NFL headquarters to get briefed on any rule changes of any types? How does that work? We're in touch nowadays via email with the NFL. We get updates on the computer software, on rule changes, that sort of thing. There is about a 30-page guidebook that the NFL updates each year, so we're issued that every year. No formal training. It's pretty much learned by doing. So we break in new people all the time and have people we use as substitutes who kind of learn the roles, and we develop them ourselves that way. And I think pretty much each team does it that way.
And speaking of developing, I like to always end my show at Voice of the Box with sort of an education bent. I love to enlighten students of any type. Development. What kind of advice or guidance would you give someone that would like to break into this type of a role? I mean, there's obviously a major math component to it. There's a major sports component to it. Bringing those two together, what kind of advice maybe were you given, or what would you impart to someone that's looking to break into this type of a job?
Well, we do bring in new people. We typically are looking for people who have some sort of stats experience, either at college or high school level, that sort of thing. It's basically knowing the game, knowing the rules, understanding it as well as you can, and then the rest of it is concentration, paying attention to what's going on the field. It's a very different way to watch a football game than if you were watching at home on TV or even in the stands, because we have to, each play is its own entity. Each play is just as important as the play before or the play after. I'll be here sometimes where it's a kind of a blowout game, and at the 2-minute warning I can hear the televisions clicking off all over America, but we have to pay attention to all those plays, because each play is equal statistically, and so we have to concentrate throughout the game, throughout that sort of 3.5-hour expanse of the game time.
Right. This isn't just about fantasy football players, but if you ever really, are tracking your quarterback, and your quarterback went 18 for 23 for 299 yards opposed to 300 yards, Dave Kranz and his team are not responsible for that, but they are responsible for keeping the measurements and the weights and measurements of all this game down to a T. So, Dave Kranz, thank you very much for spending some time on Voice of the Box, and I appreciate your time.
Happy to do it.